Hi. If your tumble dryer won't switch on or intermittently cuts out during use, it could be the door switch at fault. So in this video I'll be showing you how to replace the door switch on an Indesit 3kg tumble dryer. The tools you'll probably need on this project are a pair of engineer's pliers, a Phillips screwdriver, powered or manual, a multimeter and an old piece of cloth. Unfortunately, any part located within the cabinet on these tumble dryers requires the removal of the wraparound cabinet shell, which is a one-piece construction, and the door switch falls within this category. The first part to come off will be the rear heater cover. This panel is held on by 13 screws which all have to come out. It's not actually screwed into the cabinet section, but it does overlap the edges of it, and without its removal you wouldn't get the cabinet off. Next, remove the 3 screws on either side of the cabinet, and there are 2 more screws on the front outer edge of the kick panel. Don't remove the other screws on the panel because it's not necessary. You will need to take off the timer knob to get to the 1 screw holding the fascia panel on. So if you cover it with an old piece of cloth, then grip it with a pair of pliers, it will pull off easily without scratching it. When you've removed the screw, ease the panel up and it will unhook from the cabinet. Don't just yank it off because there are 2 wires attached to the half heat button which need to be removed. The spade connectors on this switch can be on quite tight and you may need to use a pair of pliers to free them. With the fascia out of the way, remove the screws along the top edge and the 2 either end. This will free the cabinet, which can now be lifted back and over the rear of the machine. I'll remove the drum in this clip so you can see how and where the switch is located on the front panel. Obviously you won't take the drum out to replace the switch. You'll be working on it within a confined gap between the drum and the front of the machine. So hopefully this will give you an insight as to how the switch fits. The 2 screws on the latch plate hold the switch onto the front panel. When they've been taken out, the switch can be withdrawn from the machine. You will have to twist it a bit to get it clear of the drum, so be careful not to damage it, because you may get away with just replacing the micro switch instead of the whole switch assembly. The micro switches on these units are very common, and you may be able to buy just the switch rather than the more expensive switch assembly, or if you're an engineer you may already have one in your toolbox. This switch system is used on a number of different design tumble dryers where the switch arm has a spring incorporated, which I would assume is to allow for heat expansion and movement in the door as the dryer heats up. While you have the switch out, you should test it just to be sure it is the switch that's at fault. Replacing the switch assembly is pretty straightforward, but you may need a bit of patience lining up the holes on it with the holes in the front panel, because there are no little tags on it or anything to let you know you have it in the right place. Plus the screws have to go through the latch plate as well. Before the cabinet is replaced, test the switch mechanism just to make sure it works and that by closing the door it actually does operate the switch. Refit the cabinet from the back. It can be a bit awkward and needs some jiggling about, but it is the most straightforward way for it to go on. When it's in place, refit the screws at the front first, starting with the top and bottom ones on either side of the panel. You can then continue with the others along the top of the cabinet. Before you replace the fascia panel, make sure the wires to the half heat button have been connected. Because it's just a 2-wire switch, it's not important which terminal they connect onto. The 3 little brackets on the fascia panel hook into slots in the cabinet, and the fascia is held in place by the 1 screw in the control knob recess. To complete the reassembly of the tumble dryer, refit the 3 screws on either side of the cabinet, and then replace the 13 screws on the back panel. Before you start the tumble dryer up, just give it a quick electrical continuity check to make sure the appliance is properly earthed. Turn the dial on your meter to the 200 ohms scale and attach one of your meter probes to the earth pin of the mains plug. Touch the other probe to any exposed section of the cabinet. You should get a reading of about 0.5 ohms, but because a large number of these meters may not be that accurate, virtually any reading will be adequate to identify a continuity reading. However, if there is no reading or the display stays at 1, then you need to check your earth connections. On behalf of Selfix UK, we'd like to thank you for watching this video and hope you found it useful. Goodbye.